Good morning. Sorry, I just bumped that as I did that. Whoops. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I am gonna be so messed up this week because it honestly feels like a Monday, maybe a Tuesday, but we're literally midway through the week. But I'm here with a big old knitting update. I wouldn't say a huge knitting update, but I would say a big Knitfest update. Because that was this past weekend and I have so much to share about my first ever fiber festival I went to, all of the goodies that I got, things I liked, things I didn't, things I regret, things I don't. So on the docket today, we're talking Knitfest. I have 2 finished objects. I know. I have 1 continued whip I'm working on, 1 new cast on, and my to-do list before Christmas. And a partridge in a pear tree. It's really what it feels like. As for drink today, I'm literally just drinking water. I drink spicy water, which is what we call sparkling water. I'm still trying to get over this cold. So we're just trying to stay hydrated because I did not stay hydrated this past weekend, and I feel like every time I travel, that's what happens. I don't stay hydrated. And then I spent about a week trying to get back on track. But it's fine. It's fine. So, yeah. Let's go. We're going to first talk about Knitfest because that's what's going to take up the majority of this today. I went to Knitfest this weekend. Knitfest was in Zurich, Switzerland. So we hopped on a train. It was actually super simple to get there. We went from Wiesbaden to Frankfurt on a regional, and then we took an ice from Frankfurt to Zurich, and then we needed to take another regional from Zurich to like 1 stop away, which is like the outskirts, which is where our hotel was and also where the festival was. Now, however, we were delayed because it's Deutsche Bahn. And when we finally got on in Frankfurt, it was just so delayed the rest of the way that they actually canceled our last stop, i.e. they canceled the Zurich stop. So we had to get off at Basel SBB and then take a regional from Basel to Zurich, which is about an hour. It's fine, it all works out, but getting there was a little hectic. Our travel on the way back though was so smooth, so it made up for it. But it was about maybe a 5.5 hour train ride in total. Our longest stretch being that Frankfurt to Zurich stretch, and that was about like 4 hours. So it's actually pretty simple to get there. We love train travel over here because we don't have to worry about driving, gas, parking, and everybody can just chill. Jared doesn't have to stress about driving. Aiden isn't stuck in a car seat. We always get, reserved seats with a table, and the bistro is usually 1 or 2 cars away, and there's bathrooms. So it's really a win-win. You just have to have a lot of flexibility because Deutsche Bahn is Deutsche Bahn, and they just cancel or are so delayed. But it was fine. So we got there, we got settled into our hotel, and then Saturday was the festival. So I didn't realize until Friday night after we got to the hotel that we made a big whoopsie in that we have German cell service, and I don't have service in Switzerland because Switzerland's not a part of the EU. So you have to buy this like add-on package. And we already put it on Jared's. So Jared's phone is technically the only one that works in Switzerland because it also covers the United States, and he had to go back for some trainings this summer. So it's still on his phone, but we didn't put it on my phone, which isn't a problem until Saturday when we were parting ways for the day. I was going to Knitfest, and Jared and Aiden were heading to the zoo. So that meant that I wasn't gonna have GPS to get there, and it was about a 30-minute walk. Whoops. However, I did learn that you can download maps on Google Maps. Like, you can download an area on it, and then before I left, I punched in the directions and pressed start, and it pulled up like the line I needed to walk on. And so even though I didn't have service, I could pull up the map and see my little blue dot if I was following it or not. So, I mean, I don't recommend doing it that way. It was very stressful because God forbid I did get lost. I didn't even have service to call Jared. But I did it. We figured it out. But Saturday morning, we all decided to just walk over to the regional train station we were near and grab some breakfast, and then we'd part ways from there. So we did that, and I downloaded my map before we left, and we left breakfast, parted ways. I said goodbye, and I had to walk under the train station on the other side, and Jared was like, you're gonna go up and you're gonna hang a left, and you're on the road. And as soon as I got out, I was like, I don't even need a map. I'm just gonna follow everybody who's wearing knits. Everybody in a knit sweater, I'm gonna follow them. Because it was just like you walked up and there was all these people walking this way. So you just follow along, and sure enough, down the block, you saw the big old sign for Knitfest. And so I was getting very excited. I was getting very nervous. But I got in line, I pulled up my ticket, and we walked in, and immediately, sorry, I'm trying to pull my pictures. You are given your wristband and then a little swaggy swag, which I'll show you in a little bit when I pull out my stuff. And immediately in front of you is a little information center. Off to the right is coat check, bag check, and then to the left is the marketplace. So I went over to the info to just kind of get like a layout of what was there. Doors opened at 10. I got there right at 10. I was inside by maybe like 10:05. And yeah, so went over to the info, saw that, and was like, okay, so I wasn't checking my coat or anything. I was just gonna carry it. I was like, let's just start walking, and I made the decision I'm not gonna buy anything right away. I want to walk the whole marketplace, get a feel. And so we started doing that. I started doing that, and I was like really overwhelmed very quickly. There was a lot of vendors, a lot of yarn, a lot of non-yarn things, a lot of people, and some booths it was like you're sardined in there. And so I just got really overwhelmed really quickly. And then I heard over the speaker, they wanted to welcome us, and that there was going to be the first presentation on the main stage. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go sit for a little bit. I'm gonna go sit and knit and listen to the speaker. So let me show you some pictures. All right, so this is just part of the marketplace, okay? You can see how busy it was. So all on the bottom was the marketplace. This up here was a workshop. And then back, it would be like back here, this way, was a second level with more rooms for workshops, okay? This was on the other side. So like I said, when you walk in, you have your info there. To the left is marketplace. If you walk all the way through the marketplace, there is the main stage. And so the main stage, and they had all of these tables. And so I just found a seat and got my knitting out. And this is where I was sitting. So the stage is this way, and I just turned around, and this is what it looks like from the back. So all the marketplace is on that bottom level. Up over here are those extra workshop rooms I was telling you about. So you just sit, and everyone, gets their knitting out, and you're knitting, and you are listening to the first speaker. And I want to pull up her Instagram. Her name was Moa. She is from Sweden, and she is a crochet designer and a yarn shop owner. This is her Instagram page. Hones Design. I really enjoyed her speech. And she brought some pieces to talk about and show, and I really loved it. She did have this there. If you go to her page, you'll see it's pinned, but this was here, and this is a jacket that she crocheted, and it's just, she says, things I've called myself since April 2022. And when I tell you, it's literally a work of art. And so she was really fun to listen to, very captivating, very colorful. So I really enjoyed her speech. So I listened to her for, I don't know, maybe an hour. And then I was like, okay, let's try this again. Let's get back up. Let's go back to the marketplace. And I do want to remind you, I did go in with a list, okay? I took the time and I had a whole list, 4 things on a list, yardages, you know, yarn weights, all of that. But as soon as I like started walking around, you are literally just so overwhelmed with all of this yarn in front of you. You just forget. You forget what's on the list and it just goes out the window. And so I was looking and I found somebody who had Surrey alpaca lace weight, and because I don't like mohair I think is itchy, but I love Surrey. I think it's so soft, and I had not seen anybody else with Surrey, and I was squishing all of the fuzz yarn I could find. But this lady, she did have some, and so I kind of struck up a conversation with her. Thank goodness she spoke English. She was actually an American married to a Swiss man, and so they were living in Switzerland, and she was so kind. She was like, if there's nothing here or you need more, like, just let me know and I can dye it and I can send it to you. And she was so kind, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look around, but I'll probably be back because you're like the only person I see who has Surrey. So I walked around and at that point I was kind of feeling a little defeated because it's almost lunchtime. I've been there for almost 2 hours and I've not bought a single thing, okay? I've called Jared twice though to see how it's going with them, but I hadn't bought a single thing. So I decided to go back to that lady, and I'm really glad I did. Sorry, I'm trying to grab it. Now we're gonna get into the yarn of what I actually got. Are you ready? I really don't think you're ready to see everything that I got, but I want to show you as I tell you about my day. And so I don't even know. I'm trying to find the little swag thing we got when we walked in, and I really thought it would be at the bottom. Okay, I can't find it, but when I do find it, I'll let you know. So I was speaking to, her name was Judy, and her shop is called Giggling Gecko Yarns. She was so kind. That is her username on Instagram as well, Giggling Gecko Yarns. So she and I struck up a conversation. She was very kind. She was giving me some stuff to do in the area, you know, because I said I have a son, and yeah, so here's the first thing I picked up. Couldn't find anybody else with any, and so I was like, okay, I really want a sweater with some Surrey alpaca, and I know that's such a like luxury thing because Surrey alpaca, it's not cheap, okay? But I was just like, just really drawn to it, so I couldn't stop touching it. It was so soft. So this is the first thing that I picked up. I know. This is some Surrey alpaca. It is 74% baby alpaca Surrey, 26% silk. It's 50 grams, and there's 328 yards. 328 yards. Okay. I grabbed 3 of these. And so the color is called Taze's Pink. It's a very, very light pink, okay? It almost looks white, but in like the sunlight, it's got like this like rosy pinkiness to it. So I picked this up, and on her table, she just has yarn just like laid, and there's so many beautiful colors. There's so many tonals. There's so many variegated, and I'm not usually one to go to variegated. We've talked about this before, but her, like, it was so evenly distributed on this skein. And so I'm holding this and I'm like looking and looking and looking, and I kept picking up one, and I'm like, this is my go-to colors, greens, browns. And I found this beautiful like mulled wine color, but I was like, I don't want to do that because I already like am getting mulled wine brushed merino from my friend Nicole. So I was like, I don't want two of the same. I don't want to compete which one I want to wear. So I was holding it and I was like, what would you pair it with? And I think that's sometimes the most fun part when you get to like converse and talk with these designers, because they're gonna put things together that you would not originally think of. But also that's what they're there for, you know. They want to talk about their product. They want to talk about the pairings and why they like them. And so Judy grabbed this skein, and at first I was like, no. And then I was looking at the rest of them, and I kept gravitating to what I usually do, but I just kept coming back to this skein that she was holding, and I was just like, oh my gosh, are we doing this? And this is the skein that she pulled. I know, but hear me out, okay? Listen, Linda, okay? This is so not me. But this is called Tiger Lily, 100% superwash merino, 100 grams, 400 yards, okay? She says when you're gonna pair it with the Surrey, it's gonna kind of give like a softness to all of the brightness. And she's like, it's gonna turn into like a watercolor type of deal. It's not gonna be as like bam in your face. It's gonna be much softer. So I was like, all right, wrap it up. So I got 3 skeins of the Tiger Lily and then 3 skeins of the Surrey Alpaca. And I'm thinking cozy classic raglan. I'm not entirely sure what I'm thinking sweater-wise for this. I do kind of want just a plain Jane sweater so that the yarn can really like, you know, be the star. But I'm still searching for a pattern for this. But yeah, I know I said I don't buy yarn willy-nilly, but I bought a sweater quantity, so I know it's going to turn into a sweater. And a very luxurious one, because I'm holding Surrey with it for the first time, and I'm so excited. So this is sitting here like this, and she's checking me out, and I look over, and I snatch this off of the shelf, and I was like, this too. And my vision with this immediately was crank a tube. I want to crank a tube with this because I just think I need some bike socks. That way you can't miss me. It's the constant joke around here because I am decked out in like safety gear as I am biking because I almost got hit by a bus last year. And so I'm like, if I look like a ginormous, like, you know, blinky lights and, you know, reflective gear all over me, nobody can like use the excuse, I didn't see you. So I was like, this color is called limoncello, but it is this like neon yellow that I'm gonna crank into a tube and make some bike socks because I just think that would be really fun. So I slammed that up there. I was like, add that to it. So this was my haul from Giggling Gecko Yarns. This was my first purchase, and I was feeling pretty good after this purchase. And so I was like, all right. I did like another walk around and was like, all right, let's go ahead and go get some food, okay? Because I'm really hungry right now. And so over by the main stage, so you have Marketplace, main stage, underneath where that workshop was above is the food. Now, I wouldn't say I was disappointed with the food because the food was spectacular. I don't know what pasta I had. This was my lunch. I don't know what pasta this was, okay? But it had fried onions on top, a delicious sauce. You had some bread and some applesauce, and I bought an apple shorla. So I don't know what it was, but your choices was soup that I couldn't translate because I didn't know what it was. It looked yummy. It looked like maybe like a fall squash or something, or the pasta. And that was it. And so while there was a vegan option, the soup, there was not much variety. I was expecting like food trucks because the website said food trucks and food vendors, but maybe food trucks mean something different over here. It doesn't mean the actual like food truck like Americans have. I don't know. There was also like a coffee espresso area, like a little cafe, but they didn't have any food, I don't believe. So those were really your options. It was fine. Like I said, I went with the pasta. The pasta was delicious. And I sat down to have my lunch. And at that point, I had gotten very busy over there. It was one of those like, where am I going to sit? There's literally no seats. Somebody had just gotten up from a small table, so they gave me their table. I'm sitting there, and currently on the stage was a speaker. One thing they did really good in the program was tell you whether this presentation is going to be done in English or German. And this one was in German, so I could not understand what was going on. But it was something about colors, and so I just sat, looked at the slides, listened, picked out one or two words here or there that I actually knew. But I'm sitting there, and then this mother and daughter walked by, and I had room at my table, but somebody took the chairs. So they asked if they could at least stand, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I got talking with them, and they were so nice. They were very, it was so funny, because they said hello, and I was like, hi. And they looked at me, and they were like, did you come all the way here for Knitfest? And I knew exactly what they were asking me because of my, American accent. And I was like, no. Like, I currently live in Germany. I just took the train down. I did not come from America for this. And she was like, okay, whoa. Because I was going to say, I was like, no. And so they were like very interested, like, so where are you from in America? And I was like, I'm technically from Ohio. And I said, are you guys from, Switzerland? And they're like, yeah, we're here in Zurich. And I was like, this is like your backyard then. That's really fun. So we got to talking, and yeah, they were very interested, and like, they were like, you knit weird, right? You guys are the ones that knit weird? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you swing it. I said, yeah, I flick it. I'm a flicker. Like, you flick the yarn. I can't carry it on the other side like you guys. And so we were just talking about little things like that. And the daughter went to go grab food, and the mom was asking me some questions, and she was saying, how did I learn to knit? Was it my mom? And I was like, no. She was like, was it your grandma? And I was like, no. And she was like, school? And I was like, no. I was like, I taught myself on YouTube. She's like, really? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I have 3 daughters, and only one of them has enjoyed the knitting. And I was like, aw. And she goes, yeah, they all did it in school, but, and I was like, oh, as like a extracurricular, like a club. And she was like, no, there's a knitting class for schools. And I was like, excuse me, what? And she's like, yeah, they have to do, it's like a crafting class, but yeah, it's a knitting class. There's an elementary, middle, and high school one. And I was like, they teach this in schools? She was like, yeah, that's how most of the kids will learn. And I was mind blown. Because I remember there was one class in my high school that was an elective, so not everybody had to take it. And I think we did like 1 day of knitting. It was like a home ec. It was just one of those like moments where I was like, I wish the US would adopt some of these things. Because if you could get, you know, knitting or crocheting, doing something with your hands instilled in kids, you know, I'm just thinking kids with like ADHD or, you know, just kids that have to be doing something, how much that could help them if you start them doing it young. So I thought it was amazing. It was such a great talk with them. I really enjoyed speaking with them and learning just about things over here. And yeah, it was just really sweet. But yeah, I learned they have a knitting class in elementary schools. And I just think that's amazing. I think it's amazing. So I got done eating. I decided, okay, let's go do another walk around. I would get in this habit. I would go sit and knit or eat, and then I would get up, walk around, maybe buy something, go back, sit, think about what I saw, think about what I want to buy, because I really did not want to be just like buying and buying and buying and buying. I wanted to be intentional with my purchases. So I was then walking and I passed this booth, Penny Lane Yarns, and immediately something like jumped out at the shelf at me. And so I went over and I grabbed the skein that I was looking at, and I was like, wow, this is a soft yarn. But I grabbed a color that I don't ever wear, but if you know me, you would know that it's my favorite color. And all that was left on the shelf was a sweater quantity worth. And I was like, I could make a sweater using this because it's very soft yarn. But I was like, it's just not in a color that I tend to like wear. And so then I was left with another dilemma of like, I just bought a sweater quantity of yarn that in a colorway that I don't wear very often. Do I do it again? And so I did. I did it again. And this is the yarn. It's so bright. It's so happy. I love yellow, if you can't tell from the bag. I love this color. I think it's so bright and so cheery. And the color is called Submarine. Go ahead, sing it in your head, because you know you want to. We all live in a yellow submarine. It is, the reason it's so, I mean, can you see the squish on it? This is 70% superwash merino, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. It is so soft. So I picked this up from Penny Lane Yarns. They are hand dyed in Switzerland. And I picked up, 3 of them. It's gonna be a sweater. Immediately I thought, I really have been saying I want another Cozy Classic Raglan Light, because I have one in a merino silk blend. And so I thought this could make a really nice one. I just think it's so pretty. I love this color. So this was my second purchase. And then I was like, okay, I'm cutting myself off. I need to stop. I just bought a lot of yarn. And then I called Jared again. And he answered and he goes, you know, you call a lot for a mom off duty. And I was like, I'm sorry. I miss you guys. How's the zoo? And he was like, no, we're not doing this. We are fine. We're having fun. Are you buying yarn? And I was like, yeah, I'm buying yarn, but I think I'm gonna be done for the day. Like, I've spent enough. He's like, you don't have a budget. Like just leave enough in there for our last trip and go have fun, but stop calling. And then he hung up on me. And I was like, rude. But I am grateful. I am grateful for him for that, because it was a reminder that I am off duty today. I'm not, you know, mom today. I'm Tiffany, the knitter. And so I then decided, okay, I'm gonna go walk again. And I saw a bag and I was like, I really I really think I want to go back and get that bag because it was just so cute. And so I went over to the booth, and the booth was Rocket Gran. Literally, that's what it's called, Rocket Gran. And I picked up the bag, and then I started perusing the yarns. They had more commercial yarns that I have seen before, so not as much hand-dyed stuff as like Penny Lane or the Giggling Gecko, but I was perusing. So first off, this was the bag I picked up. Girls just want to have yarn. I thought it was so cute. It was one of the first things I saw when I walked into Knitfest, and I was like, that's cute. 10 out of 10. So as I was going along, oh, here it is. This is also what you got when you walked in the door after they scanned your ticket. That is the logo for Knitfest. Another thing to note about Knitfest, this was the first year for this festival. When I was talking to that mom and daughter, they were asking me how I heard about it. And I said, I'm pretty sure a rabbit hole I went down on Instagram. I said, how did you guys? And she says, oh, the lady who is running this is our hairdresser. So I guess it took about 1.5 years and a Kickstarter to get things moving, but this was the first year. So you got a cute little stitch marker when you walked in the door. But back to Rocket Gran. I'm walking around and I see a yarn. I've worked with this yarn before. I'm actually going to grab it off the shelf because I know it's right here. I've worked with this yarn before, okay? I picked this up at my local yarn shop, actually. But this colorway just jumped at me. I know. So this is Manos del Uruguay, and this is called in the colorway Marla. I really love this. This is what the tag says. Manos del Uruguay is a not-for-profit organization created in 1968 to bring economical and social opportunities to Uruguayan rural women. And so they're also proud members of the World Fair Trade Organization. But what's really cool is inside it tells you who made your skein, which I think is so cool. It's just that added touch of another person, somebody made this, okay? So they, it says we're organized in cooperatives throughout Uruguay's countryside where we spin and hand dye our yarns. So this person spun and hand dyed this yarn, and I just think that's amazing. But the colors in this the colors in this just like jumped at me. It is a 100% wool, 273 yards approximately, which makes it about a DK light worsted weight, okay? At this point, though, I was feeling very defeated because I had gotten nothing on my list. But this was DK. And I knew I had an accessory, the Waffle Ridge Scarf by Tiffany Lynn, on my list. And I was like, I only need 3 skeins of DK to make that. So then I started looking on the shelves. And then I found this colorway. And I was like, oh, it's a perfect match. And this is Studio Misha and Puff hand-dyed superwash merino wool. Where is... Yeah, sorry, I was reading it. And so I was like, oh, that's such a pretty, okay, I just need one more. I need one more. And so I kept grabbing skeins and putting, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. I landed on my final skein. Another Manos del Uruguay, but this is the Sammy, i.e. it's just not marled. It's just a plain one. Yeah, this is going to be absolutely gorgeous. So this is going to become the Waffle Ridge Scarf by Tiffany Lynn. And at that point, I got to cross something off my list that I felt accomplished, and I was like, I am done. Done for the day. And so I went and I knit for a little bit until Jared said that they were on their way back, and I decided to start my trek back to the hotel. And at that point, it was probably about 3:15. So I had spent from 10 to 3:15 there. And It was amazing. I forgot something. I did buy one more thing, and it was actually on my way out. But I found this super adorable little pouch. So I'm trying to get it out without dumping everything. Are you stuck? There we go. This little textile. It's got a little Christmas stuff on it. I'll talk about what's currently in here when I get to it, but I also did buy this. You'll explain why. I'll explain why in a moment. You'll see. But that was my haul. I got so many skeins. One thing off of my project list. Two things that weren't even on my project list. Yarn for some socks. And I walked out feeling so happy and inspired because everybody was just wearing the most beautiful knits. And I'm walking around and I'm like, oh, I know that pattern. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. Oh, I wonder what that pattern is. All of the yarns, all of the shawls. It was amazing. So I left feeling inspired. I left feeling grateful. I left saying if they do it again next year, I will come back. So when I left, I didn't have any regrets. I got everything that I was going to look for. Like I said, my really only about the day was the food. I thought there would be more options. But Sunday rolled around. We were all so exhausted. We just chilled all day. But I will say, if I have one regret, it's that I didn't buy the weekend pass. So Knitfest was Saturday and Sunday, and I just got the Saturday ticket. We ended up not doing anything on Sunday. So I was like, I could be at Knitfest right now. Not necessarily to buy more stuff, but just to be there. There was a workshop on the main stage that I would have liked to be a part of. So I would say my one regret is not doing the weekend ticket. Next time I would do the weekend ticket, and I would also sign up for a work class, a workshop. There was a lot of classes that was offered, and a couple of them I 100% would have done. I just didn't want to overload myself too much, but yeah, I think next time I for sure 100% would do a class and do the weekend. I would say that's the only real regret I had was that, because I found myself a couple times on Sunday being like, I could be in Knitfest right now. But all in all, it was great. It was a wonderful weekend. Look at all the beautiful yarn I got. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to get some, patterns to some of these yarns, especially this yarn, and get to knitting, which is going to lead me into what I'm currently knitting on. So you'll be seeing these yarns hopefully very, very soon. But for now I'm just happy because I can skein them up. I didn't want to wind them yet until I showed them to you. But oops, well, that didn't really work out. Okay, you just stay there and you're gonna fall. Okay, all right, so that's gonna lead me into what I'm working on actually physically knitting. So all right, let's start with some finished objects. The first one, I took my chicken socks that I cranked on the train with me, and I finished 3 out of the 4 heels and toes. I just had 1 toe left to do because we played some games. So I didn't get to knit the whole time, but look what's done. So adorable. Another pair of socks. They're so quick. I'm just so happy about that. So this is my first finished object. I actually had Jared try it on last night because I decided I want to make recipe cards for each person for how they like their sock. For instance, I put them on my phone till I can get it down on paper. But Jared is much different sock than I am. We both do enjoy the 40 row hung hem. So that it's a thicker type of hem. So we both love that. But for me, I like 70 rows from my hung hem to the top of my heel. I like 70 rows right here. Okay. And then I have, for my foot size, 63 rows for my feet down to the toe. Okay. Jared, however, he prefers 54 rows for the leg, and he's at 70 rows because he's got big feet. So he doesn't like as high of a sock as I do. So I've been calling him like our sock recipes and figuring out what I like so that I know when I figure out how to make a whole sock on there, when I get to 70 rows, I can start my heel. Okay, finish that and then do 63 rows for my foot, you know, and then do my toe. So I want to do that for literally anybody I ever want to make socks for, and just keep their recipe card so that I know how to make them socks. Because who doesn't love just like being like, hey, I knit you some socks. That I love giving gifts, and I love knitting gifts for people. And with this, it's giving me the ability to do it a lot quicker. So I'm going to be in the process of making everyone's little sock recipe cards. But this is the first finished object. The second one, I don't even want to show you. Honestly, I don't even want to show you because I think it is the ugliest thing I've ever knit in my life. Because I didn't think that the fuzzy yarn was going to be thick enough for a full sock. So I decided to stripe it, which was a really bad mistake because they turned out butt ugly. But A, they're not for outside use, they're just for inside the house. And B, it's for my nephew and he's gonna think that they're funky, and it's fine. And C, I'm gonna knit my niece a matching-ish pair. But I mentioned I wanted to make my nephew a pair of those movie night slipper socks. And so I did. We're not spending much time on this, okay, because I think that they're ugly. So don't come at me and say, Tiffany, those are ugly. I know that they're ugly, okay? But this is what they look like. They're really fuzzy, but this fuzz yarn actually fluffed up and gave me a bigger gauge than what I was anticipating. So when I make my niece's, she's going to have matching toe, heel, and cuff, but she is just going to be all in the fuzz yarn, mainly also because I'm out of the blue. But she has way, way smaller feet. It's a smaller size I'm making, so I think the fuzz will be fine. But these are my nephew's slipper socks, and that's that. We're not talking about it anymore. So those are my two finished objects. The continued whip that I have going is my dad's scarf, and believe it or not, I got a lot done. This is what I worked on the way to Knitfest. I still have a long way to go, but it's growing. And the good news is it's superwash. As soon as I get this wet to stretch it to there, instead of it being there, I'm going to stretch it to there. It's going to grow in length as well. So I'm not terribly worried, but I can at least wrap it around my neck now. Couldn't do that before. So it is a good mindless knit, but I haven't worked on it this weekend because I've been putting heels and toes on socks all weekend. So this didn't get worked on at all on the way home. So those are my two finished objects, my one continued whip, one new cast on. We're almost done. Hang in there. We're almost done. I know Knitfest took up a lot of time. Why did I get this bag? You see, this bag is perfect to put my sock tubes in. It's the perfect size. So this is what I'm dubbing, and it's great to put all of the sock tubes, all of the mini skeins in here, and then zip this and throw it in my bag. And then I don't have things going everywhere. So that's what I did. That's what I did. So I'm currently working on, actually before we do this bag was from textile manufacturer Tons, Garn Annette and Jürgen Tans. They're in Switzerland. Handmade in Toggenburg. I don't know. But I'm all about showing people's little business cards. I think their website's on there. No, their email. Yes, their website. Web is at the bottom. But it's a .ch. So this is called the box bag. It's a size small. But currently I have Jared's socks in here. And last night I finished the first sock. So, yeah. This is his first sock. So I used this mini skein. I didn't have enough to do 4 heels and toes, but I did have enough to do at least 2. But we chose this because it looks like Workout Barbie. And then I decided to do the toes Workout Barbie, and then the heels I decided to do in this yarn. This is an Office collection, and the colorway is called My Horn Can Pierce the Sky. If you're an Office fan, you know that reference, and that's what this one knits up to be. I think it's so cute. The teals, the purples, the pinks. So this is his sock. I had him try on my chicken sock yesterday, and his first thought was, wow, this is a lot stretchier than my other pairs. I said, yeah, because I cranked this one. But yeah, I think it's great. So I counted down, I did his recipe. I ended up taking off that much, which is probably at least 1 toe, maybe 1 heel, which is really cool because I'm planning to use this with this, because how much more neon can you get? So this much will come off of the second one, and you can kind of tell when I hold it up like this. So from about here down, it gets taken off. Taken off meaning I just I find this little piece here and I just start pulling, and it just starts unwinding it. So I have 1 more. I would like to think I can get it done today, but today is going to be a very busy day. So I'm not banking on it. But we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? But I just love this little bag. I put my needles. I put my, extra skeins in there. Currently, I put my little red thing, which is my accessory pack. And then this whole thing just gets tossed in a bag. So yeah. What else? The last thing I want to talk about is my to-do list that I sat down and made last night. I started getting a little worried because we leave for our final trip in 2 weeks from today. We are going for our final travel over here for this year. We are going to a new country. We are flying to Malta. And this is going to be kind of like our Mallorca trip this summer. It's going to be a chill trip. I don't think we're really going to be planning much to do. We are going to be staying at a resort that has a heated pool. So we are just planning to swim and swim and swim some more. Because we just really need a chill trip. But also that is over Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. So it's really weird for me to go to the grocery store and see all the Thanksgiving stuff out and not have to buy any of it this year because I'm not cooking, because we're going to be in Malta. Currently Malta, okay, if you don't know where Malta is, it's okay. My mom, when I told her, she was like, where is that? Malta, if you're looking at a map, find Italy, the boot, find the soccer ball, Sicily, the ball. Right down here below that is this little itty bitty country called Malta. It is it's not the smallest, but it is one of the smallest countries over here. But currently it's 70, 74, 76, 75, 71, 68. So it's going to be 70, which doesn't seem very warm. But when you compare it to what's going on here, 40s, It's gonna be nice. So we have that final trip, and then we literally get back from that on a Saturday, and we leave 6 days later. Like, it's gonna be such a quick turnaround, and that final week is just gonna be so much prepping for our trip home. So I'm beginning to freak out about everything I need to get done before that. So I made a list last night. So this week's plans is I need to finish Jared's socks, and I need to finish my niece's. Okay, if I can get those 2 things crossed off, I'll be feeling good. But I need to continue and finish my dad's scarf. I was on such a roll a couple of weeks ago with these Christmas tree ornaments, and then I took them all and I made this beautiful garland that I love, but now I'm left with 2, and I needed like 9 of these, and I only have 2, which means I need to make 7 more. So 7 trees are on the list to do. Oh my gosh, just saying that makes me stress. 7 more. We'll see if I get to them. I can usually make about 1 a day. I don't know. I guess I just need to look at my list and be like, who really needs an ornament? Who's going to appreciate the ornament more than anything? Maybe I need to look at that. And then on top of that, I need to make some more baubles. But I probably need to do what I'm doing for the trees and decide who actually is going to appreciate these. Because that list could probably be dwindled down. And then, as if I don't have enough going on, I had an idea to make another knit lovey, another goose for a friend. So we'll see. We'll see if I can get to that. That might be the last thing that I do, because I really don't want to cast anything else on at the moment, because I need to get these other things done. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's really what's on my list that I need to get done before we go home. So I'm stressing just a little bit. But we'll see. If I can at least finish my niece's socks and Jared's socks this week, that's 2 things off of the docket. And then if I can maybe get a couple trees done, maybe a couple baubles, I'll feel a little better. But it's already Wednesday. It's already Wednesday, so I don't know what all I'm going to be able to get done. I don't. I have not cranked anything since we gotten back. I do have some yarn you see right there in the cone that I do need to crank, because I did get an order for Christmas. Somebody wants me to make them some Christmas socks, so I'm going to do that for a gift. They want for a gift. So I do have to crank that, but I don't have any plans to crank anything else because I need to get some of this stuff done. So we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot going on. There's a lot, and I feel I get this way every holiday season because I love giving gifts. I love giving handmade gifts. But I just need to remember not everybody enjoys getting handmade gifts. And so I really do need to dwindle that list down. But it's really hard for me to do that right now because we're going home for Christmas. And that in itself is the gift. But I just feel wrong not giving something as a gift. But the reality is it just may not happen. So I don't know. I need to look at my list. I need to figure out what actually needs to get done and go from there. But that is my update for the week. Hopefully next week I will have a big old good news of I got so much stuff done. Look at all of this. Hopefully. If not, you'll see me all frazzled and stressed again with a to-do list that is paralyzing me. that I just need to get started on. So stay tuned to see what I make with all my Knitfest stuff. Stay tuned to see if I can get this to-do list done and not go crazy. We'll see. Regardless, I'll see you next week.